Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Friday Night Chat Show. And we are very excited today. First of all, we have not just one guest on, but we have two guests on, and that kind of, is probably the first time I think we've actually done that from the off. We've invited many people on before, but not as two guests in one. And there's a reason for that, which we will get to in a minute. But first of all, as always, hello, Chris. It's nice to see you. That face in the loft is always there. Enjoying the loft. So we'll get the beer sponsor done first, then we can introduce the guest for you. So this is someone who's been on the show before, and we're very excited to have this as a beer token sponsor, and which, by the way, you can do yourself. So definitely worth looking into. So this person is, you can go back and listen to his show as well. Chris, I'm going to put it out your misery, Chris, because you keep looking at it. So up in the top corner, you will see his book pop up in a second when I find it. So that is up there. Singapore Killer. You may have remembered that from Murray Bailey. He came on the show. Fantastic series, Ash Carter series, James Bond-esque, I believe. 4.6 out of 5 stars on Amazon. Paperback and ebook available. And he's got a new book, Singapore Fire, coming out very soon as well. So thank you very much for your beer sponsor. That'll stay on throughout the show, and we put links to that in the descriptions of the YouTube and the Twitter and the podcast.
And can I just say, I've read this, and it's a very good book. It's a really good series as well. The Ash Carter series, absolutely brilliant. Did I write this review?
No, you didn't. Oh, you may have. There's two. So, a suspicious helicopter crash, a dangerous cult, a deadly serial killer, and someone said, "I love Ash Carter. He reminds me of Hannibal's Will Graham mixed with Michael Connolly's Harry Bosch."
Pretty sure I wrote that.
You may have read. Yeah, I got it off Amazon. So there you go. So thank you very much. I will be enjoying this very shortly. And like I said, that will stay up in the top corner throughout the show. And thank you again. So let's get on to today's guests. And like I said, two guests today. Again, someone who's been on the show before, which is fantastic. These two guests are both fantasy writers. One is written... get me this. I'll get this wrong now. Oh, my goodness. It's blanking.
You literally told me like 2 minutes ago.
Wonder Kids? Is that right? Yeah, Wonder Kids. And God damn it.
Come on, Chris.
My brain's gone. It's gone. Sorry. Pathkeeper and Son of Secrets. Oh my God, that was horrendous. Not the books, me. Ignore that. So let's get them on because I'm embarrassing myself here. Those two people are Jacqueline Silvester and NJ Simmonds. Hello.
Hello.
I'm so sorry about that introduction of your books because my mind just completely went blank.
Okay.
How's it going? How are you two?
Good. Yes, we've been busy working the last 10 days. Jacqueline's been staying at my house in the Netherlands on deadline together on a deadline for the next book in our series, and just about breathing. It's been really tough.
So for those watching who aren't familiar with your work as individuals, first of all, can we have a quick delve into your two books there and kind of just, I know we've had the interview with you, NJ, before, but a very quick description, say maybe how long you've been writing and what your individual books are about, and then we'll jump into why you're here together.
Okay, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote the Wonder Kids series, which is a YA series. It starts with Wonder Kids Wildwood Academy, and it's a sort of 13 and up boarding school, dark boarding school story. And in my other time, I write animation screenplays and work as a script doctor, fixing up scripts, doctoring them. So that's me. Is that enough?
Well, yeah. How long have you been writing for, if you don't mind me asking?
A really long time. Like if you count sort of emo poetry, then since I was 10, yeah.
Emo poetry definitely counts.
So like 6 years in total.
Oh, I got to hear her 13-year-old poetry when I
read. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm not going to help anyone do the math how old I am. So a while.
It's all right. We won't ask. It's fine.
My name's Natalie. Everybody on Twitter knows me as NJ because my writer name's NJ Simmonds. I'm a fantasy writer as well. So my series is The Pathkeeper, followed by Son of Secrets, and Children of Shadows is out in May. So it's a trilogy. It's past life, fate-filled fantasy romance set between London and Spain. And I also write manga. All my books have basically got magic. It's all fantasy. The manga's more YA, kind of younger YA, 13 plus. That's fun. That's a 12-part series, and there'll be some big announcements about that coming out soon. And I'm working on a few other things that I can't talk about yet. So I do cover a range of ages and genres at the moment, but they're all magic, and they're all strong, complex women, and they're all set, all in and around Europe. And that leads us on to who we are together, because when we're writing together, we write as Caedis Knight.
Caedis Knight, yes.
Yes.
This is, I'll let you explain this in a minute, but before we get to that and what Caedis Knight is, and we will get that very quickly, how did you two get to write this together? How did that come about?
We met at YALC, which is the
Young Adult Literary Convention.
Young Adult Literary Convention, which is a sort of division of the London Comic Con. And we met and complained and became friends, and then
bonded through our bonding through our writing misery.
Yeah. And then sort of years later, I approached Natalie because I had a few ideas swirling around in my head, and I just really didn't want to go through this process alone anymore, or at least wanted one project, because I have a background in animation and script doctoring and stuff, and I know how it feels to be with people on something. And then with my books, Wonder Kids, I know how it feels to be very, very alone. And I saw a lot of people in the indie community, having co-authors and stuff. And so Natalie was my first pick. And I was really nervous when I was pitching it to her, and she was like, okay. And I was like, no. And then this happens. And she was like, no, okay, I love it. I want to do it. Because I guess it also,
I'm a quick decision maker. So she rang me up. She was like, hey, so this is really weird, and I don't know what you're going to say, but I've got this idea about doing a joint writing project. And I'm big on collaboration. I work with a lot of people, predominantly women actually, on a lot of creative projects. And she's like, it's kind of True Blood. So there's some vampires, but there's other paranormals, and there's witches, and it's a bit sexy. And I was like, yep. She's like, no, so we'll be writing it together, set in Europe. I was like, yep.
Yeah.
Like, you're in? I said, yeah, when can we start? And that was over a year ago now, and we haven't stopped.
But what I really liked about this, when I looked into your website, this is not just a release of a book that's coming up. It's a whole series and a whole package. It's like a whole momentum that's coming, and it's not, you really worked a lot on the details and the website and everything like that. So it's been a big process. It wasn't just something, do you want to write a book? Was it? It was a clear, plan.
I come from a marketing background. So I've been working in marketing now for I am going to give away my age, 22 years or so. And you come from a very creative animation background. So we understand about PR, understand marketing. I actually lecture on self-branding in the creative industry. And I work with some really cool people in at unis and stuff, teaching small businesses on their marketing. So we didn't approach this like you just write a book and see what happens. We've approached this as a 6-part series with 2 novellas.
2 supporting novellas. Yeah.
It's set each book is with a different paranormal. Well, there's a continuous storyline all the way through, but there's different paranormals in different predominantly European cities in every book, with a thread that runs all the way through, which is why I have a very twitchy eye at the moment.
And part of the reason I approached Natalie, I think at the time, was because we had both seen The Boys. I don't know if you know The Boys on Amazon.
Yes, very, very much so. Love it.
Really outrageous show. And we've both been in YA, which has a lot of rules, rightfully so, because it's meant to be consumed by teenagers and children. So I always wanted to write something that is nothing's off the table, and there are sex scenes, and there's a lot of cursing, and there's a lot of all of this. And so when I saw that she liked The Boys, I'm like, if someone likes that, they'll be okay with the other stuff. But then Natalie's outdone me in the weirdness.
You should have given me a free rein the first time, without an agent or a publisher or bookshops worried about what's in it. So I was like, did I go too far? I don't even know what's going inside your head. But it's lots of twisty trope twists and a lot of gore and fun.
Nice. So with such a massive project like that, how do you even start to sort of divide that labor up, and what's that process like?
It's been, this first book that's coming out and the novella, because we can't bring one book out at the same time. Obviously, we had to bring out 2 on the same day for some reason. But the approach was very much kind of, let's see how we get on. So obviously the first book's always tricky because you're finding your feet. We get on really well. I mean, even my husband tonight was going, I don't think, you and I would have lasted one weekend planning this. I was like, no, we've been, over a year working together, but we've got our strengths. So Jackie's hilarious. All the memorable one-liners, the jokes, the clever plot twists, all of that. The really strong characters and creativity. All the good stuff.
Leprechaun puns.
All the puns, yeah. And then I do a lot of the action, the building, the tension, the world building. I really enjoy the sex scenes. You have to turn them down.
So we have opposite strengths, and then we're not petty about anything. So that's been really good with major cuts, and like I don't think there's really been a moment where it's like, oh, I'm precious about that. And on a more technical level, because I know this interests a lot of people, it's been outlined first. Then we have one Word document, which we circulate. So I do a chapter, she does a chapter on assigned days, which makes it fun because you're always going to read the person's chapter before you. And then you always feel the pressure of giving them one. So it's kind of like a volley. So we do that. It's in first person. So I know a lot of co-authors like to do separate POVs because then, they can just keep their voices in that. Whereas we do the, kind of like when kids play that game of passing around the story they can't see. So we've done that and then moved on to a Google Doc, shared Google Doc for all the edits.
All the structure edits. Yeah, but I mean...
And that's worked out.
Yeah, it has. And as Jackie said, neither of us are precious. I was a co-founder of an online magazine where I've written over 200 articles and the editor's gone, I've cut half of it. You've come from massive backgrounds of lots of things being cut and rewritten. And, she'll call me up and she's like, love that chapter, but I just rewrote it. And I go, all right. And then I read it. I go, yeah, yours was better. At the end of the day, the book has to be good, and whoever can add to that, that's great. We've never really got to a point where we've said, no, don't take that out. So that's been good.
So have you actually both written the same chapter, then compared the two, or have you written one and then the next person write the next chapter?
No, one on, one off. So we've done alternate chapters and then gone back and edited one another's chapters.
Wow.
And you get to the end, you've got a unique third voice.
Yeah. And the opposite strengths bit really helps because I know I have to add the sass and the humor, and then Natalie knows she needs to improve the action and add a lot of, depth to it and stuff. So,
and, you might write like a, 800 word chapter, and then I turn it into a 1,500 word chapter. So right to our strengths really. But it was hard with the first book because we were finding our feet and getting to know what works. And it's the same with all the marketing. So the website I did and all the graphics I did. You did the amazing trailer, and Jackie even did the covers. So,
which I want to get onto that right now because I mentioned this before you came on. That your website it's a really nice looking website, but you've got a trailer on the front as well as like you said the marketing side of it. You've kind of got that covered. So there's, the picture, the books that are coming out with the release date. So it's really well put together. But I just want to play the trailer for those watching the YouTube video. And I have asked you if this is okay, and you said yes. So I'm sure you'll enjoy this on the YouTube. And if you listen on the podcast, we'll try and explain it a bit afterwards. So let me just share this now. Yeah. And I will show you a bit of the website. So as we mentioned, it's a very nice looking website, and you guys have done a great job doing this. So it outlines your books there. Your books are for pre-order, some reviews, and then we get onto this YouTube trailer. So I'll just play this, and hopefully it will play in screen. There you go.
I love it.
Quick internet there. It's fantastic. There you go. That is a fantastic looking trailer. And the first thing that two things I want to point out in that trailer. The first being 6 books and 6 cities. Now, instantly, we talked about the size of this project, and that is enormous. So why, first of all, did we look into we want to do 6 books, 6 cities? Where did that idea come from?
We've lived in all those cities. I move around a lot. So you speak 5 languages fluently, right? And how many countries have you lived in?
6, like lived. 6.
Yeah, and I've
got a lot of cities.
And I've lived in 4 countries and speak 2 languages fluently, and not including the country in which I live in now because I can't get my head around Dutch. So we were pretty tired of seeing places that we lived in. I mean, we're both mixed nationalities. I'm English and Spanish, and you're
Russian, Ukrainian.
Yeah, but lived. I'm just
I feel like you led up to that.
And so we were quite tired of seeing, our own kind of histories and countries that we knew really, really well misrepresented. You get like I don't know, someone in the States wanting to write a book set in Paris, and it's not the real Paris. Or you get something like a movie like Notting Hill, it's not the real London. So we were tired of that. And we thought, well, you get a lot of YA paranormal romances or normal paranormal romances set in little small American towns. But how about we actually wrote the real city? So every single book is a place we've lived in. We're writing it from an authentic place. From our own voice.
Might expand past that, but that's the cities we started with. And I think it's also, we were trying to think what we can bring to the table that would be original in this genre. And you do get a lot of, the American ones, and I love them, so I'm not, hating on them, but they're based like podunk middle America towns and stuff like that, overcast towns. And we wanted to, and you get a lot in the UK, obviously, and we do have the UK later in the series, but we wanted to really go to a few other cities. So we open up with Moscow, which it's where my parents are from, and I've spent a lot of time there and stuff. And I really, wanted those vampires in Moscow. And then we move on to a town that Natalie was really familiar with. So.
So in terms of the vampires in the different cities, are they all connected? And is there a favorite city you both have?
Well, all the cities aren't connected, but the same character, Saskia, who's a Verity Witch, she's a reporter for the Blood Web Chronicles, because the Blood Web is like a dark paranormal web, like the dark web, but for paranormal.
Yeah, so it's a layer on sort of like a secondary dark web that's mostly used by paranormals because they know how to access it. So similarly, as we know how to access the dark web, they know how to access the blood web, and it's where they do anything from get the date to like order medicine to have crimes ordered and stuff like that. And so that's the tech side of it. And then she's an investigative reporter for the main news source on the blood web, and then she goes to all these towns on assignment. So cities.
So the actual storyline of it, is this happening in the real world with the fantasy in the background, or is this very much just fantasy? All right, okay.
So all of this is happening contemporary now, minus COVID, because no one wants to write about that. But it's in real time, and it's all set within about a 1.5 time frame if you do the novella. And then there's a common thread. So all the way through, she's actually trying to track down something that's personal to her. To read the whole series in order, you'll find out, whether she achieves that. But at each city, she's dealing with different paranormals and basically gets involved romantically with most of them.
Yeah. and those paranormals are involved in very contemporary, crimes or things, because it does all revolve around this kind of dark net. And so you get blockchain and cryptocurrency, stuff like that coming up in the series. Pharmaceutical developments and a lot of stuff that, we got inspired a lot by the news.
So it's pretty highbrow. It's not.
Yeah, almost like a layer of organized crime, within that as well. Yeah. So my next point from the trailer was, it was the dark web, which was at the end, of course. And I thought maybe that is something that you're putting together with the project. Are you going to leave a few breadcrumbs for fans? Because I know there's quite a few things that have been out before when people don't know if it's real or not. And you can leave sort of a little trail of a dark web, that sort of web that people, if they researched it, might find a little portal somewhere. Would you think about doing something like that for marketing purposes?
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. Thank you for that. I personally don't really like the dark web that much. Freaks me out. Like, I have been on and stuff, and like I read a lot about that kind of stuff, and like I read recently about deep fakes, and they really freak me out. So I'm like, this has to be in the series. So it's more the stuff that freaks me out that us out
No
versus
shortage
like,
of that this year, is there?
but no, that would be very cool. Although I think a lot of our readers are probably going to more enjoy the tech side rather than that. They really want to be part of.
They're going to enjoy the paranormal romance side.
No. I'm saying like it's not something. I don't think we're going to get that many tech lovers to go that deep. Like log on to the dark net, you'll find.
Yeah, we're not that like.
So you mentioned that these books are very much almost cross genre at times. What would you class this as? In what genre would you put it in if it had to go in certain like one category?
Yeah, it's definitely 100%
paranormal.
It's not
romance.
erotica because I mean it gets saucy, but it's
okay.
Depends how prudish you are. It's not erotica by my standards, but because they've got plots and storylines, and it's actually a story, not just gratuitous sex, 50 Shades kind of stuff. But we don't hold back, so it does get kind of whoa and a bit gory and a bit of a trope twist. Our vampires aren't your usual vampire. Our sirens aren't your usual sirens. We haven't stuck to any rules, put it that way, and that's been the most fun.
We have some pretty good comps, I think, when we say like if you liked True Blood and if you like The Boys and some romance with both of those, then you will like me.
Let me ask you this then, because I've never been a massive vampire fan. I'm very much into the zombie thing, which is much more realistic than vampires, but I am into The Boys, right? So for someone who's not a big vampire lover, how could you sort of entice me into this book? What would your vampires that are different to normal make me want to read about?
There's only vampires in the Moscow one. Well, to begin with, each book's got different things. So the first novella is sirens and mermaids, but nobody wants a sexy fish. So there's none of that weirdness going on. Although we may have been a bit inspired by the character the Deep in.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which is a bit gross.
By the Deep's skills.
By his skills. We'll leave it there. But
I would say that it's very like it is provocative in its sense of humor. So it's very much like The Boys in that way. So we don't kind of pull. Yeah, we really like when people are reading it, they're like, "Oh, you went there," and it's like we wanted to go there. We haven't had this done for a long time.
Yeah, and it's funny. It makes us laugh. We're not.
Each book is built like a thriller because she's an investigative reporter. So each time she arrives in a new town, in that town, it's a new paranormal and it's a new crime. So it is a whodunit. So if people like Buffy and that format, that also fits.
But if you don't like vampires, you're going to enjoy it just for the world building because you are very much immersed in Moscow, for instance. You're very much immersed in this nightclub scene. There are more than just vampires there. We've got shifters. Without giving too much away, we've got people that kind of shift into animals and stuff, and then we mix that up with this kind of what would you call it? It's not really. It's a strip club. It's a strip club, really.
It's a
strip club. I'm trying to think of a more politically correct word.
Yeah, and we have a strip club, for example, in Moscow, and I wanted to get it right, and so I had to call a lot of my friends in Moscow and be like, just walk me through. Like, what is it when because I have been, but not enough. And then I was like, explain to me, what are the private rooms? What happens? I made some of my friends pretty uncomfortable, but got down to it. And so
then you rang your grandmother about the Bolshoi.
Yeah. So we wanted each book to feel like you are traveling. So that form of escapism, that you are visiting the town, but you're not walking down the Red Square. You are going to the weird, gritty parts. And that's I think a selling point, but I think the dividing factor is essentially like, do you like romance as well? That is a factor because we talked about zombies, and the reason we're not sure we're ever gonna go down that route.
I love zombies, but nobody wants
because
to.
I don't know, if anyone wants to.
No one wants to fuck a zombie.
Maybe that's a whole big subgenre, and you'll see us there in 3 years.
Do you want to have sex with them?
Zombies.
I don't think anyone's. Z Nation, I think, nearly went there. They had zombie strippers in Z Nation.
Okay.
Oh really?
Yeah.
What was that? Warm Blood? Warm Blood's
Warm
Bodies, yeah.
But that was more a romantic kind of thing than a sexual thing. But
So I'm intrigued with 6 books. Then, like inevitably, you always get that one person who picks up book number 4 and just starts from there. Is that something that's possible with this series, or is it very much a start from book 1 and work your way through?
I think they work individually. I mean, you're not going to follow the thread, and there's going to be references to things that happened in the past, but they're not. They can be read out of order.
Yeah. They do work individually, but obviously we also didn't want our readers to have a whole series where everything's completely, individual. So we wanted them to have the payoff of like, you've been with us for 6 books and now what those many Easter eggs led to in the end. So we did want them to have a payoff. But then because each time it's a whodunit new town, it also, it's the same as switching on a Buffy episode like mid-season 3.
Yeah, so basically, if you're watching True Blood, if you watch season 2, you might not get some of the references, but they've each got their own theme.
Yeah.
And we can't help but work in that way because your background's animation and script writing.
Yeah.
And
so they're close storylines, but I think it's nice there's a payoff at the end of the
very visually, don't we?
So Jacqueline, in terms of screenwriting and the way that you've clearly written this, that seems to be like if this could get onto like a Netflix or an Amazon TV program, it seems that vibe. Is it different from writing sort of novel writing to screenwriting, where in a novel you're trying to get that character arc throughout the entire series, whereas in the screenplay you're almost trying to get it within that episode? Or was it easy to do it episode per episode, or were you having an underlying arc all the way through the entire book as well?
Yeah, it was pretty easy to do it book per book because, whodunits are kind of not, I don't want to say formulaic because that's a bit of a negative word, but, there is a big crime. It needs to get solved. Within the crime, there's many subplots, it's all intertwined. So in that way, like it exists in that ecosystem, but we knew that being from the YA industry, we knew that people love the payoff. So we have one basically subplot that is more of a character arc subplot because it's something intimate
because she's going to grow because she's pretty young. She's 23. She's going to grow within her role as the reporter over that year and a half across 6 cities and 2 novellas, just little seasonal offshoots. So she is going to grow, and there is going to be a resolution to her overriding challenge that she's looking, because she takes on this job to solve something anyway, personal to her. But absolutely, and the exciting thing is because this is the first time we've done something completely independent, and because of our background, we do actually have a producer waiting to read this. So no pressure.
So if it was optioned, then it was going to the destined for the big screen, who would play your lead character?
It'd be somebody new. I mean, it's been a long time since I've sort of like Shadow and Bone, when they announced it for Netflix and stuff. I think everyone knew there'd be like one guy that everyone recognized, and they tend to get a lot of new faces for these shows with planning. I don't think they want to invest at pilot level, for that. So I've gone on like technical talk, but like they're not. I think they want the characters to sort of grow into celebrities with the show when they're doing pilots, unless they want like one big.
But if you had the option to choose anybody, who would that be?
Well, our inspiration for Lucas is actually a Russian rapper, so I don't think he's not going to fit. And the other one was another Russian ballet dancer. So
so we got inspired by real people, and we used this like really bad boy Ukrainian ballet dancer for one of our vamps, and this like other bad boy Russian rapper for the other vamp. And
I've got to know some really good Russian hip hop tracks if you're interested.
So if we think about the book process and this big package of books you're putting together in this whole series, what stage are those books in? And you've written the first book and the novella that kind of goes with it.
Yeah.
Is this sort of where you've got to, or is this already planned the next few episodes? Where are you in that process?
They're all plotted.
The whole series is plotted. That makes us sound so professional. They're all plotted. We've got all our characters. We've got our Pinterest boards, because we have to share the visuals. We're both very visual. One of the advantages of writing together is that what I'm seeing in my head, I have to make sure it's what she's seeing. So we do a lot of like mood boards for one another.
And that part's fun. So
that's the fun bit, is the structure edits of that.
They're all plotted, and we have ideas for spin-offs because we've kind of, the story in our head is 6 books for now, but then with there being this entire sub-layer of the internet and stuff, and a lot of governing paranormal bodies inside, and so a lot of like corporations and things like that, so we have a lot of room too.
And we've created a very detailed world, and within that there's lots of scope to and then the great thing is that we're working with our own street team. So because the name that we came up with, Caedis Knight, is completely made up to represent both of us, and Saskia, the main character, is a Verity Witch, which is a truth witch. Our street team's called the Verity Knights, and we've already got 20 people in the team, but it's growing every day.
Wow.
So we work really closely with them. We've already done some live chats and stuff, and we really listen to our readers. I mean, luckily we were able to bring some of our biggest fans and readers to our other books over.
They're actually going to get to decide some stuff about the series, which I think is fun. So there is going to
It's very fun.
Yeah, and if we find out that people are much more into werewolves than vampires, or much more into fae than shifters, then great, we'll give them what they want, you know. But we have got our 6 books and our 2 novellas planned, and then quick release. We won't be keeping people waiting years for these. They're going to be quite a few a year, hopefully.
Again, just the sheer magnitude of this level of detail and planning and stuff like that. I'm just wondering how that's impacted you both on an individual basis, in terms of, have you very much committed to this working and this collaboration for the next year or so, or are you going to be doing bits and bobs on the side?
We've got no choice. We've got other businesses.
We've got others. I have to deliver the 3rd book of Wonder Kids because I have some foreign trade publishers and stuff, and they're waiting for it. So
I've got my 3rd book out.
Yeah,
in
she
May.
has her 3rd book out.
I've got a 12-part manga, and we're up to the 4th part at the moment, so I've still got a lot of that to write. Plus, I've got another collaboration I'm working on. You've got business. I've got lecturing, so we've got a lot going on our plate. But the cool thing is that we can work to our strengths. When one of us is busy, the other one takes over. Yeah. I mean, with Sirens, with the novella, I basically just plotted the whole thing, wrote it, and said here. And then she rewrote it when she had the time. You know, we can play with our time. We weren't expecting COVID. We weren't expecting to homeschool. It's been a bit tough, but we've got the freedom, so we won't be putting too much pressure on ourselves with the next book.
What's been the hardest process of writing as a pair? Has it been something that stood out as the new that's been quite tricky, or has everything been quite easy because you get along and it's quite a natural process for you guys, or has it been something that's tricky?
I feel bad at answering. I feel like I'm going to jinx it.
Oh, no.
I'm going to fight next week. Honest, we're people who've experienced 5 years in the industry, which sounds like a long time to me. I don't know, maybe it's not a long time.
Probably not. It feels like forever.
But it is enough time to feel a lot of isolation and a lot of rejection and a lot of the things that come with this. And when you're in a partnership, I mean, maybe there'll be issues down the road, but a lot of that goes away. And I'm just so happy that someone, I mean, even our publishers, there's a certain turnaround in the industry for when people get back to you. Whereas I can call Natalie at 2 p.m. and be like, what'd you think of this idea if he went there? And then she's like, I'm writing it down right now. Let's break it. You got this person that's keeping you going. A therapist.
We'll talk about
your personal trainer.
We'll complain about our husbands for an hour, and then we'll get on with the writing. So get it out.
I was going to edit that out, and it just makes it worth it because there's someone there.
I mean, it's a bit difficult because you work a lot more in the afternoons and evenings. Yeah. I'm up at 6, so I get most of my writing done between 8 and 1. So that's good. That goes in our favour sometimes. Other times, we're not hitting our most energetic at the same time. But that's not a big deal. Yeah.
So another thing I'm interested in terms of your linguistic abilities, are you releasing this in multiple different languages, or are you just going to stick to English and produce it in certain countries, or is it going global?
We're not translating anything ourselves.
No.
I don't know. My experience is when my books were translated into Russian and Ukrainian, and when I looked at the translation, even though I feel fluent, I feel that what they were able to achieve is a separate, art form almost. What it translates do is a whole other specialty. So yeah, I don't think I could do
Spanish,
it. But we are going to pitch it for a few rounds and stuff. And
So not only do we have a TV producer, but we've got some people that might be able to translate, some publishers that we know abroad that might be able to do that. That's the cool thing. We've actually got the contacts now, and
we'll see how it goes because it is really kind of gritty in a way. But I think a lot more doors are opening for that kind of content. We'll see.
So for those people who are watching now at home, when can they get their hands on this, and what countries is it going to be available in?
In English all around the world, but in other languages, it's going to maybe take a while.
Yeah, so it's out 15th of October, starting with ebook to begin with. Sirens of Los Angeles is a novella, and it's currently only 80p or 99 cents. Because it's a lead-in and it's a little taster of what's to come, and it sets up the prequel, it sets up the whole Saskia, how she got into it, and then that's it. That's the one.
Yeah, it's a taster for people to see if they wanna.
And then the second book, Vampires of Moscow, is also out on the 15th of October, so people can
in time for Halloween, and they're both quite gory and stuff.
I was going to ask, is this timed for Halloween being an October release?
Yes.
But obviously you just answered that there. So it
Yeah,
is. It's a good.
Nothing's
It's a
an
good.
accident.
Say again.
Nothing's an accident.
Yeah.
We've really tried to-
If we can go just quickly back to when you spoke about Caedis Knight being formed, the name Caedis Knight, and it related to you both individually to create that one name. How did that sort of relate to you, and where did that come from?
Caedis is actually a variation of the spelling of a Latin word caedis, which means slaughter, killing, death. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's great. So we just, and also being like romance writers, we want to involve those names that were really kind of, and also from a much more kind of a strategic view, from an SEO perspective or from a search perspective, to have a name that we know didn't exist. It's really cool. And Knight sounded really good with it, didn't it? So we played around with a few things and that one stuck.
So as romance writers, like, what is your main objective when you start writing that love story and that sort of idea? What are you trying to explore, and what are the things that you like to try and get across as authors?
I'm smirking at the moment because I'm like, not that much romance, really. It's more
it is romantic in nature, but when we tell people about it, we're kind of like, oh, imagine, sexcapades across Europe. So I wouldn't say that it's, that we're thinking about how to make the characters fall in love as much as like how to have how they have an attraction to each other and the fun story behind it.
Yeah, it's as I said, like in True Blood. I mean, Suki gets about, but
like,
it's a bit like,
gets about.
She does get
with True Blood, I think maybe some people are like, wow, Suki's just, in love with someone new every 5 minutes.
There's still passion. For us, it was about each character being really individual. So, and we're very diverse as well. So when we say romance, this is not girl, boy, fall in love. No, it's all on the page. Sasuke's bisexual. Paranormals do all sorts of things. So
there's a lot of bi storylines for her. And then I think just because, sometimes she just likes people. She is not, head over heels in love with them. And sometimes she just likes them. So, which, if
we all remember what it was like to be 23.
So is this more focused on, you said about the True Blood connection, more because they're sort of animalistic? Is that the kind of approach you went with that? Is not because you didn't want to write like a romantic story in that depth of like a love attraction. You wanted, because they're like vampires or whatever kind of creatures, you wanted them to be more animalistic.
Yeah, but not animalistic in a kind of...
They don't really...
No, not in like a...
No, it's passion, it's excitement, it's an attraction, it's sexual attraction. Yes, there is romance and there is an ongoing storyline where it builds and then there's something more kind of concrete, more love.
She cares for a lot of people.
But she's very generous with her love.
No, when I watched True Blood, I remember thinking like, it's so unrealistic that she's completely, head over heels in love with all of them and then still in love with just someone else at the end of the series. And we wanted a character who is quite feminist and forward. So she loves sex and that's not a problem for her. And she gets to know and care about, some people, some of them she does fall in love with, and there is like a larger love storyline. So there's plenty of romance. But sometimes there's just attraction and passion and life.
Yeah, and also she's a witch, and the witches are very matriarchal. The way we've written them anyway, they're very liberal, matriarchal. So what might be frowned upon, say, in some parts of the world, in the paranormal world, it's not frowned upon. No one's going to be judging her for not settling down and getting married, and also her job, she's quite reckless. She takes a lot of risks. She's a reporter. She's quite self-sabotaging, and I think that kind of character trait lends itself well to basically falling for people.
And especially like love triangles are so big in YA. And I remember when I read a Sarah J. Maas book where she had been in love with one guy and then another one, and there was your traditional triangle, and then all of a sudden she fell for a completely different guy. And I loved that so much. And so I was like, well, why does it have to be, just these two people? But this one was always meant to her for all of time. And we kind of wanted a heroine who explores the world.
We don't want to write back characters. They're meant to be with just one person, and that's who they're going to get married, and that's who they're going to have a baby with. That's boring.
I think every single romantic comedy I've ever seen on telly, like a film, has always been that storyline. Pretty much every single one of them.
Well, basically, we took every storyline that's really repeated, and we just kind of tore it up and twisted it up.
We wanted to keep it really contemporary. So when the series opens up, she has Tinder for paranormals, she is swiping left, whatever, paranormal beings and stuff, and she is living that 2019 life.
Yeah, not 2020 life. Nobody gets to meet anybody in 2020. But
So,
spring break.
Another question I was going to ask is, Stephen King is obviously a fantastic writer and he's known for being a great writer, but he's notorious for being shit at writing sex scenes. So how did you approach that, and what was the sort of process behind that? Because the general consensus on Twitter is you either write a really good one or a really bad one, but there's very rarely that middle ground sort of thing.
You'll have to tell us what you think.
I hope we have good ones.
You tell us. I don't know. You think
I think a small degree of realism we wanted as well. I mean, I don't know how realistic it can be when you're having sex with a hot merman or whatever, but it's we wanted
there's no fin.
I had full on Zoolander flashbacks in my head. Merman.
We have Zoolander jokes actually.
We do.
In there.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so there's a lot of also we take the piss out of ourselves while still being very serious. And the name Caedis Knight also has to do with that. It's we wanted a name that was so meta romance author, and in it we want to be so romance authory, and it is serious. It gets bad sometimes and stuff, but then there's always this underlying.
It's a lot of humor. I mean, we're not taking ourselves seriously. We're not taking ourselves seriously while we write it, and I hope that fun and that freedom comes across. When we write sex scenes, we try and avoid words to describe genitalia, because really, we did a lot of research at other. There was velvet wrapped. Velvet wrapped.
That's not ours, unfortunately.
That's not ours. We're not describing. We're going to get gratuitous.
But yeah, no, we do it. We do it with any other scene where we really we care and we draw it out and we think about why and what's the motivation and what's that character like. How does he move? What is he thinking? What does he say? What is he insecure about? And we try to make it just really sexy for our readers. We obviously want them to be really.
And it's female focused as well. You can tell the difference when a man writes a sex scene than when a woman writes a sex scene, because sorry, without getting too graphic. Not about the money shot at the end. So we're
well, you're gonna have to read my sequel scene and let me know what you think about that then, because I don't think
we swap sex stories, Chris, shall we?
Yeah, we'll swap and have a look. But I don't think I wrote it in probably a general perspective in that way. So we'll see.
Well, we've got a character, Luca, who's wild. He's like the Joker meets Eminem meets this Russian rapper, and he's really, so you thought, well, having sex with him is not going to be the same as having sex with a more serious business.
Yeah, it's all different. And for him, we looked around a room and they were he would use things around the room. He's just wild. And he would break things and he would just come up with really weird ideas that you wouldn't think of. So we take that approach with every single character. So it's not the same.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a werewolf living in the middle of nowhere, running through the forest naked, you're not going to have sex the same way as if you run a business in London. So, but at the same time, they're not getting too weird. I mean,
so we spoke about True Blood and the boys being sort of inspirations in some sort of way. Is there anything else that stands out as inspirational for these stories? Books maybe, or even films or TV?
Buffy means a lot to me. So Buffy's always an inspiration to me with that world. And I like the sarcasm on Buffy.
The wit.
I like the wit a lot. And I think both Buffy and True Blood, they can make you very sad while still taking the piss out of themselves. So there's
a level of poignancy. Yeah. We do go quite deep with the characters. It's not gratuitous. Oh, she meets them, they have sex, move on to the next, the next mystery. We really do go quite deep with the characters.
What else was there then?
I mean, Sarah J. Maas is a good crossover.
Yeah, Sarah J. Maas is also really good. If people like Sarah J. Maas, I'm pretty confident they would also like this series.
Different writing style.
Mostly her new book, because her new book is a much more contemporary take on paranormals. Yeah. What else? I don't know.
I love all the vampire stuff, like Lost Boys. Yeah. So Luca is much more of a Lost Boys vampire than he is Vampire Diaries. We do binge on. I'm basically like a 15-year-old girl in my viewing habit. All that stuff. But we've also been inspired by things that we don't want to do. So we look at how werewolves are portrayed, and then we go, that's what our werewolves are actually super smart loners that are more skater boys. So we're not going for alphas, sexy living in.
Do you think you decided those personalities for a werewolf or for whatever character based on the real life personalities of, say, a skater boy? Do you think you kind of link those together because they were similar?
Guys to base all these people on? Women? No, not really. I mean, we joked about let's put a few X's in there. And
well, they're all different. Like none of the every single werewolf is different. Every single vamp is different. But we've kind of tried to play with tropes and stuff. And I was like, I would like it if werewolves had something to do with the startup industry. Because I've been around startups so many times, and and the really fun part is we've thought about, okay, if you were a leprechaun, where would you keep your money, your gold? Are you keeping it in crypto? Are you keeping it in a traditional savings account with interest rates? What are you doing? So having these paranormals really immersed in the logistics and technicalities of our world, that was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, also how would they communicate one another? Do they cross communicate? Do they like each other? Do they not? Can they be together? What would happen if the witch went off with this? And
going back to the boys, the way that we're both dark is we've thought about, okay, different paranormals, if they needed an abortion, where would they go? Who do they go to? So we like this, how the boys kind of took superheroes and turned around this dirty corporate thing. We like to think about the dirty sublayers of how all of this would work.
Yeah, and also the cities that they're in. We don't want to give away all these books, but these cities we've lived in, we know the dark side of them. Sorry, do you want to just... That's my dishwasher beeping really loudly. Just a minute. It's not going to stop. Glamorous.
So I like the idea that you are bringing culture from cities that you've experienced to the stories, but you're actually bringing the underground version of that culture. So I really like that idea.
Yeah, and the cities inspire the characters.
Yeah.
So, if you've got a certain paranormal living in, I don't know, let's say Sydney, they're not going to act the same way as if they're living in Hawaii. That's not two destinations that we've written about. But
she's trying to avoid the destinations really skillfully
really
because she's already given a lot away.
I know. I'm really...
So is Caedis Knight? Do they have any plans for Halloween?
It's a bit hard with everything.
We probably shouldn't even be in the same.
I mean, I live in Berlin, and our lockdown's a little bit, not. I mean, there'll probably be parties literally outside of my house.
Well, if you are stuck in the house, there's a certain show that's going to be having a Halloween special on the 13th of October. Just so you know, and it's going to be a live show with fancy dress and spooky alcoholic drinks. So you're all welcome to attend.
Yes, I'm sure my kids will make me do something. And actually, at my kids' school, I normally go in and do a little talk and get all dressed up and do a little kind of a thing at the school. But no, I mean, I live in the Netherlands and we've just been declared code red. So
yeah, we today have been also told to tighten up. So yes, interesting times ahead, I think.
Well, more time to stay at home.
I just make syringe Jello shots because at one point I bought a very large amount of these Jello shot syringes and I'm stuck with them for life. They're useful one day of the year. They're just having
Well, I'm very intrigued to see how the Halloween show is going to go because I've got this is a green screen with bricks behind me, but that is actually Mr. Hooley's loft. Or attic, whichever you want to say. So I wanted to hang up some skeletons and have the lights, flashing on and off. But you might not get back down the stairs if he's having a few drinks up in the attic. So we'll see. You might have to put a bed up there. All night.
So what does I'm interested now. Obviously we know we've got the 6 books coming, and we've got the novellas as well. But what does the future look like for you both as a collaboration and individually as well? What are you hoping for in the future?
Well, I know that personally I've got a lot of projects going on at the moment. So as I said, I'm writing 4 different genres, fantasy, paranormal romance, Jackie, something else that I can't talk about yet, and manga.
Legally, she can't talk about it.
Until the contract is signed. And hopefully one of the success. But so I've got a lot of that going on. Plus I'm going to be doing a lot of online lectures and I'm working with a number of cool people hopefully with that. So that's where my focus is on at the moment. But with Caedis Knight, we've already talked about this. We
have enough to do for a while.
We've got enough for a year or two. And then after that, I mean, I did send her an email at the middle of the night going, I've had an idea for our 2nd series. She's like, oh my God, fuck off. We just get on with this one first. So, we don't have a shortage of ideas.
For me, it's concluding the Wonder Kids trilogy. So that would be nice because that's been sort of 6 years in the making to finish that. And then I have the Caedis Knight stuff. And then, I have some other sort of sadder, more contemporary YA that I've written. So I'm going to find a home for those.
No, and I've read your very sad but very brilliant.
You're very, very, very sad books.
Poignant.
sad life. I've read them.
Really good.
It's just like I write some books that have to do with my life and my childhood. I was born in a refugee camp, and I moved around my entire life, and I had nowhere to live at 16. So I've had some experiences, and I want to put them all in books. And every time I give them to my author friends now, they're just like, "It was so sad," and I'm like, "Okay, so sad, so sad,
But brilliant, but brilliant. I cried.
But then they say nice things after that. But like the first few times, I'm like, "Oh, so sad."
Well, we both got a book at the moment with agents, put it that way. So we're both trying to get an agent at the moment. So I've got a fantasy set during the Great Fire of London with a world beneath ours that's very Neil Gaiman, B. Schwab, Terry Pratchett-like, and that's a trilogy. And I have a few agents that are interested, but it's all gone quiet. And you've also got a load of agents. So we've got a lot of fingers, a lot of pies.
Which is really nice that we have the Caedis Knight thing, because that the world with agenting and publishing, all that has so many rules, and then anytime that we feel discouraged or something, we're back in this world that is like moving fast, and we can do whatever we want.
It's kind of nice that if you are kind of not, I guess, struggling, but in your own sort of world, going in your own author journey, if you kind of just think, do you know what, I'm in a place in my head where I'm just not ready for this at the moment, you can just step back and collaborate on something that's really positive.
Yeah,
and that's probably going to inspire you to get back on your individual horse, I guess, and push forward with that. So
I think some people see indie as a backup option, but actually people get surprised when I tell them that with Wonder Kids, I went into indie relatively quickly because I spoke with one agent, and she was like, "Oh, but you've got a boarding school story, and I don't know, maybe you should, write something new for me because I really like your writing." And I had already plotted an entire trilogy, and I was like, I don't know how as a person I can go on if I just, shelve all of this. And then I really quickly moved into the indie route, and I've had so many people that have supported me, and it's been such a positive experience that I don't regret it for even a second.
You were literally in Vogue magazine in Ukraine.
What does that got to do with it?
Because that's how big it was out there. I mean,
it did well, like in my home country.
Go and show me the photos, and I keep bringing it up in 10 minutes. But
but I think indie's really liberating, and it can be such an amazing positive experience to put your art out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, who started off traditionally published, it takes 3 months to get an email back, and then it takes 6 months to get edits back. And in that waiting time, this time last year, I struggled a lot with my mental health, and it was because I was putting so much emotional emphasis on one series doing well. And then I realized, well, number one, I have no control whether people like it or my publisher can get it where I need it to be. And number two, Picasso produced 50,000 works of art and was famous for 100. So the keep creating, keep producing. You don't know what's
I also, just to go off of that, I don't really like the culture of shelving, because I think that authors are the only artists that get asked to shelve stuff. Like painters and musicians, they're still able to put everything on the internet, share everything, but authors are the only ones where it's like, well, just put this away forever. Because I don't like that. No. I think you created some art, people need to see it, and so people should put, whether that's Wattpad, whatever route they want to take. I don't believe in shelving. It's just my TED Talk. Thank you.
No word left behind. If we wrote it, someone's going to read it. Whether they
someone's
like it,
going to read it. Goddamn.
So if we talk about obviously successful collaborations, and you guys have had such a brilliant experience of writing together. So if I could take it away, and let's say everybody in the world's listening to this right now, you get to pick one person that you could collaborate in the future with. Who would that person be for each of you, and why?
You can go first.
Gonna aim high, and if I could just sit near Joss Whedon while we collaborate. But I don't know. I mean, if we're talking idols, or we both have a lot of friends in YA and people we'd love to collaborate with in that world.
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for.
Leigh Bardugo. I'll say Leigh Bardugo.
Oh,
and you can't have it.
Okay, I can't have her. Okay, I love Neil Gaiman and what he does, and I could listen to his voice all day. So I think he'd be a very calm, influential person to be inspired by. I'd work with him, although I'd be completely intimidated.
It to be balanced, not just like,
I'm just
I'll bring you some tea.
He writes it and puts my name on it. That's what I meant by collaboration. And then, Laini Taylor is awesome, and Patrice Lawrence. I love the way she writes contemporary teen stuff set in London, because she actually doesn't shy away from the grit of reality teens in London. And I come from a really working class background. We're both basically immigrants we both moved as young children to a country where we didn't speak language and stuff, and that's not seen enough. And I think that does influence our work. It's probably why we have people moving around a lot. And Patrice Lawrence is really, really good at not sugarcoating working class lives. So yeah, those are awesome.
So whilst we're on that note about working with other people, if you could take somebody else's character and put them into this series that is either like a pre-existing vampire or a werewolf that we all are aware of, who would that character be, and what would you do with them within your story and the Caedis Knight stuff?
Damon from Vampire Diaries.
With Eric from True Blood.
And then we just write sex scenes.
And yeah.
Can I say who I'd like to put in that one? What vampire? Michael Jackson from the Thriller video.
No!
Yeah. I love that crazy vampire he turns into. It's classic.
I would say like Halsey, the singer, and Ruby Rose come up a lot while we're talking.
Yeah.
We have both like women we find really attractive in the series, and then for our character, but also as characters. So those are the two singer and actresses that come up like a lot. Like they're in our Pinterest boards and stuff. So Rose would be in it. That'd be great.
There's one that reminds me of both of those, and she was in the Old Guard that we spoke about recently. Chris, do you remember her name?
Charlize Theron.
Yes, I think she'd be a great sort of similar character.
Kate Blanchett. I mean, if we're talking like bisexual dream girls that would make really powerful, complex women in our stories, we'll have all of them. Thank you. We have a lot of fun because we get to just look at really like sexy films and so it's
good research. Yeah.
And I think the Deep in Boys is really not great because he's really not great. But the way they did that, and then she's not on season 2 yet, but what they did with the rest of it,
I'm getting there. I want to watch it from the beginning again.
Season 2 started well.
Yeah.
And Spike from Buffy. Like I would love that if we could write him something.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but as I said, we're very diverse. So all our characters they look lots of different ways. They do lots of different things, and they come from all around the world. And we've got everything from like Chechens to Syrians to nationalities that you just don't see represented enough in European literature, really. We don't want just the sexy French guy and the Cockney. We don't do that.
We didn't name any diverse inspiration because my brain goes completely blank. But
I know.
We've tried to really consciously be diverse in the series because that's about a lot in YA, and in our 5 years in YA, we've had a full education on the importance of it and on how to handle like the bi narrative, for example, from our points of view and everything else. We've really also tried, and I don't know if you see that a lot in indie paranormal.
And we're not doing it to tick boxes. So yes, a lot of it is own voice because of our own background and our own experiences. But at the same time, we are hoping to fairly represent. We want people to see themselves in these books.
I think if you're writing stories about 6 cities, 6 different cultures, if you're not thinking about that, then you're probably doing something wrong. So the fact that you're bringing that in together for all those cultures to mix, I think is perfect. So
yeah, but we don't just have Russians in Russia.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question now.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to say for future fans of this series, and obviously without giving anything away, who is your favorite character in the series? So you don't need to say why. Just tell us who your favorite character is.
We haven't developed all of them yet. I'm sure we'll fall in love with a few of them. I mean, I know which one you're
I love Shifter Owl.
Oh, what, more than Luca?
I love Luca and then Shifter Owl.
Okay.
That's not his name.
But he hasn't got a name. I love what Lucia's going to be.
Yeah.
When we get there.
And Saskia.
And Saskia's
the main character.
Yeah. You can't not love her. I also do like Jackson. I'm really excited to develop him a bit further. He's a bit of a dark.
He's the senior editor at the Blood Web Chronicles, so he's the one that sends her on assignment everywhere.
He's basically like a younger, sexier Idris Elba if he was Bond, but also paranormal.
And a bit of Julian Assange, because their whole newspaper is based on whistleblowing in the para community.
So you're talking about your characters being involved with sort of, a bit of a crime investigation and a bit of romance and a bit of passion. Is there any sort of characters in these series or plots, that are a big nemesis to your main character?
Not continuous nemesis. We don't have a baddie all the way through, but Oh no, we do have a baddie all the way through. Sorry, yes, we've got a really good baddie all the way through. But there's obviously baddies in each book because she's doing crimes and she has to take them down. But of course, sometimes the baddies you don't realize they're baddies until she's been seduced by them or whatever. So
Interesting.
Brilliant.
Cool. So we're going to wrap up very soon. We've hit an hour, so we'll have to wrap up. But your Vampires of Moscow is out on the 15th of October and is the prequel novella, Sirens of Los Angeles, on the same day. So can we let people know where we can get hold of this and any details you want them to know just before we finish up?
Yeah, you can pre-order them now, and they're a really good on Amazon, and they're a really good price. So the prequel novella is only 99 cents, 80p. Vampires of Moscow is at $3.99. So they're really good price at the moment. So we've been really successful with our pre-orders, which has been fantastic. Any information you can get at caedisnight.com, or you can follow us on Twitter as Caedis Knight. There you go. Wow, you're so good.
And if you'd like to help shape the series, if a more immersive experience would be for you, then you can apply to join the Verity Nights, and you do that through our website, and then you join our special Facebook group where we collaborate with some of the readers.
That's pretty awesome, isn't it?
You get we do competitions, we do giveaways, and you get a membership card, and it's pretty cool.
It's fantastic. It's really good to have the fans that are, involved in the process. It makes it so much more meaningful. So I think that's a fantastic.
Come with us, they're awesome.
Yeah. If just quickly as well, if we have for any new writers or inspiring writers to want to write something as big as what you're putting together, and the size and the kind of the world that you've built, any tips on either the world building or making a bigger plan than just one book? How to put a series together.
We did talk, so we talked about for the future about historical, and we knew that if we had this world plus historical, you're doubling your research and development time. So maybe we'll go down that route in the future, but I would suggest, pick
what you know.
Yeah, not pick what you know. I mean, if you know nothing about if you know nothing about World War II and you want to set a paranormal, romance in World War II, just know it's going to take you 6 months to research this. So pick and choose your battles and stuff on how much time. Don't think that you can do that in 2 weeks.
I mean, this is the first book starts in Moscow. It's littered with edits, me saying Jackie's going to put something in here. Jackie's going to talk about
it's always me because I live there and I know Moscow.
And then in the future there'll be things that I'm
so that saved us a huge amount of time. When people talk about the ambitious scope, they're like, oh, because it's across all these cities. And it's like, well, no, because we've lived there, so we know exactly what food to put in, which streets to put in. That saved us time. So kind of pick, what you know, and then use resources. We've used a lot of world building documents and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, now we've got a document that's basically our world
master doc.
It's a master document, and everything about everything is in there. All the rules we make. So because we have to share our brain, basically, we cross-reference that all the time. Wait a minute, what do witches do again? What's their matriarchy? How does that work? What's the timeline?
Yeah. Timeline. It provides a lot of timeline docs. I hate Excel, but that has just become a part of my life for certain things like that, like timelines.
Yeah, and we use the beat sheets as well. So we use the Save the Cat beat sheet.
Let's suggest that once book 6 has come out and everyone's madly in love with your stories and your series, and they demand a book 7, and you could pick any sort of new city to go to that you haven't been to and experience the culture to put in that book, what would be your ideal city to finish it all off with?
One that we haven't been to, either of us.
Yeah.
Well, that's really hard. Where haven't you been to? We were saying how neither of us have been to Croatia, but I don't know.
I haven't been to Seoul.
No, I haven't either. You've been to Japan. That we did say Tokyo would be fun, but you know it. I don't know it very well. I spent a year in Australia, and I'd love to base something in that. But I don't know. There's so many places.
For me, it's Seoul or Reykjavik. So you can pick your own.
Yeah, I don't know. We were saying Warlocks of Warsaw or something.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of alliteration in the titles. Don't want to give anything away because we haven't told our readers cities are in the series. But so yesterday we were just joking because we also have this sneaky plan that the cities we haven't been to, we obviously have to go to them on a girls' trip for research. Yeah. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
Warsaw's not too far from me in Berlin, so we're Warsaw, Warlocks of Warsaw. There you go.
Done. We're off to Poland.
So. Amazing.
I've got one question that's just come into my mind, and if I don't ask it, it's going to irritate me. Have you being masters of language in terms of you knowing at least 2 languages, have you created a language in this book that is entirely fictional?
No, I've read how that's done, and that seemed very ambitious. Maybe someday.
I think we've been ambitious enough, quite frankly.
I bought this book that is about how all the greats like Tolkien and stuff made up their own language and how you actually do that. And I was like, oh.
Well, the way you can do that is to drop, once you've got this army of fans that you've got that are contributing to your books, drop in that book into that group chat and let them come up with it.
Actually, I do have people putting together some playlists for my Pathkeeper stuff. I was like, oh, you like doing that, do you? Great.
Yeah, carry on.
And I'll put it on the website. And people are so enthusiastic about this stuff. It's doing with fan art. And
I think it would add a level of neurosis to my life that I don't need. Like today we were plotting some stuff with book 3, and I had all these, like I took gift wrap paper and I was like drawing like circles really manifold. I was like, it connects to this. And I was just having a meltdown. I think a language, I would be like, well, they don't say it like that.
Oh, then you have to. I've got photos of Jackie in action, like plotting like some mad detective or something on my.
It was like that meme where the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is doing like the thing. I just lost it for a minute. I don't know if you can. I don't think they can see it.
No, it's reflecting. You'll have to post it on Twitter for us, and we'll share it.
Yeah, it was already on Twitter actually. It was quite funny.
So yeah, kudos to people who do make up their own languages. It's amazing.
Oh.
But not for us right now.
No, it's complicated enough with plots and cities and a whole new world building. Yeah.
Oh, and Americanisms versus, because our character speaks American English, so that's been a whole because I lived in the UK for 8 years, so I no longer know the distinction that well, and so I'm like looking at what she's writing. I'm like, it doesn't sound American. Then I have to sit there and be like, oh my God, would you call me at 12? And that's how I find out.
I wrote, what
car park. Like I was like, meet me in the car park. No, meet me in the parking lot.
Yeah, and it's like, can't call people wankers. Can't
that's obvious.
Too, and unless we set it somewhere in the UK. But yeah, I'm obviously very.
What's the alternative to wankers in America?
Jerk-off.
Oh, okay, jerk off.
I don't know. You put
jerks. I don't know. Dick.
Yeah, jerk.
Amazing. And a lot of we have to make sure there's references that
But you said like classy lot, and I was like, yeah, they're a classy lot, and then I was like, no, that. Oh my God, they're such a classy lot. No,
that doesn't work. Yeah.
That's
really learn American English.
So Natalie, what we'll have to do is I'll send you that section of my book, so you can judge that. My sequel with that.
About it, so it's okay to still email it.
Yeah,
and then you can send it some of your stuff, and we may have to. We'll try and give it a reading, but we're not sure if we can get it on the show or not. We'll have to have like.
Show me yours, I'll show you mine.
Yeah, and.
I've got no shame. I'm half Spanish. There's no such thing. I don't even think there's a word for being embarrassed. Really, not properly, not the same way as in England. So I'm shameless. I'll read it.
Well, from the sort of, I've read books since I've written that scene, and I thought mine was okay. I thought it would be detailed, and I was clearly mistaken from some things I've read since. So perhaps you'll find it very much on the lower scale of things. But just wanted your perspective of what you said about how guys write scenes. I want to know if that differs or not, because I didn't think I wrote it that kind of way.
And I'll read anything on the show just because I love seeing Chris go red. So if you want to send me anything, I'll read it out.
All right, you can read it, Chris. You can read it. But what we'll do is we'll leave the links to these books and on the show's description on your website and your Twitter links and all that in the description of the show. Plus, on the 15th of October, if you send us or give us a little reminder, we will promote that book for you as well when it comes. Oh, the 2 books when they come out. So
that's brilliant. We've had so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we wish you all the best. Honestly, it sounds absolutely fantastic, and it's not. We're excited because it's not just like a book that's coming out and a book with a novella. It's a whole package series, and we're really looking forward to that. So we wish you all the best and hope it goes really well.
I've got the zombie one to read still. I've got it on my. I've forgotten. I've just not done a lot.
Well, maybe I won't send you the sequel then, because you'll have to finish that one.
That's okay. Just send me the sections.
Yeah. Cool. Amazing. Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and all the best for your Halloween sales. So
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Take care then.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye.